I'm Gary Stearman. Welcome to another edition of Prophecy in the News, and we're going to continue a discussion that we had with two great guys, Tom Horn, L.A. Marzulli, both of them authors. You're going to enjoy this. Well, we're going to continue a discussion we've been having that started in the Old Testament as the sons of God coming into the daughters of man and creating a race that God had to curse because it was a genetic hybrid which God could not receive. It was not part of his plan. And from that time until this, there has been a battle, and that battle comes to us in Genesis 3:15, in which there is a contest to see which seed dominates. Will it be the seed of the serpent or the seed of the woman? It's a genetic process, right? Mm-hmm. L.A. Marzulli, you've written about Nephilim. The Nephilim in the Old Testament, the fallen ones, they were a mixture. They were something God didn't approve of, and they started I guess you could say, they started a ball rolling that's still rolling today.
Yeah, what we're looking at is this cosmic struggle, this cosmic chess match between the Most High God and the fallen angel. And of course, it's a mismatch. The fallen angel, Lucifer, Satan, is no match for the Most High God. But he's so demented and so depraved that he actually thinks he can win. And then, of course, when you fast forward to the book of Revelation, when he gathers the kings of the earth and assembles them, they're looking up. They're ready to do battle. They really think they can win this war. And so what we see is a series of moves, counter moves, counter moves, all through the Old and New Testament, where the fallen one is always trying to somehow get the upper hand and become the victor. Had he contaminated the entire human race, let's say Noah that would have been it. He would have won the chess match, and humans, if you could call them humans, because they would have all been demonic hybrids at that point, there would be no human race, and there would be no Messiah. He would have won the chess match, be nothing to redeem. But thank God he didn't. And of course we have the flood, which wiped out the Nephilim and all the other chimeras that were there, and the bloodline continued to the Messiah.
Last time in our discussion, we had reached the point that we were talking seriously about genetic hybrids in the period of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We talked about the giants. We also began to speak of the latter-day phenomenon, Tom, in which this whole business of genetic manipulation would begin again in earnest, and our Lord prophesied that this would happen. He said it was just going to be like it was in the days of Noah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's kind of almost a two-part issue. There is what happened in ancient days, there's what's happening today. In a very general sense, you had a power that came down to the earth, and it seemed to immediately set about trying to build an empire. It had a plan, it had a system, mm-hmm. and the goal of this empire was to subjugate all other living species upon the earth. Immediately, these Nephilim, of course, come under judgment from God. That alone, by the way, I think also attests to the facts about genetic manipulation, because otherwise you have a God who is depicted in the scripture as forgiving, loving, not willing that any should perish. Even with the Hebrews, made provisions for non-Hebrew blood to be able to come in mm-hmm. and to become a proselyte, to get saved in the Old Testament sense. Always made provision, but when it came to the Nephilim, no grace whatsoever. If they were found, they were to be destroyed. They were to be wiped out. They were an aberration upon the earth. And so to me, even that fact says something about this unusual form of life. Now, will the same thing return? In that last show, we were talking about alien abduction. There seems to continue to be some very mysterious process that is at work, and it is harvesting DNA for some purpose.
Well, and the interesting thing today is that the same group of offenders from on high, if you will, they're back, but this time they're wearing a new disguise. They are disguised as sci-fi types. We come here to serve you. We come from another galaxy. We are superior to you. We've had longer to evolve than you have. We can bring you great technology. We can bring you all kinds of peace where you now have just internal conflict. We can bring peace to you. We can do all kinds of things. We can help you keep your planet green. So they're coming as our divine overseers, and actually I think being received that way by some groups.
Being received that way now in ways that are frankly surprising. For instance, how the Vatican has weighed in on this issue in recent years. And we in the last show we just mentioned this official disclosure series, which you're now making available through Prophecy in the News, 20 hours of audio recording. That grew out of this last January when the Royal Academy of Sciences, the oldest scientific body on earth out of the UK, invited members of NASA, the United Nations, the European Space Agency, people who are brilliant thinkers. They call them a dizzying array of intellects, is how the press referred to it, to come and to discuss one subject. Are we alone in the universe? And actually, can we make contact? Well, when the Vatican weighed in on this, my mind goes back to Galileo and people who were persecuted for scientific inquiry.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden we're warming up to this idea that these beings may not only exist, but Lynn, they might even be morally superior to us.
I would certainly agree with that. That when they come, we will look at them. It's what I call in a pen the coming great deception, the alien gospel. And this alien gospel is that we were your progenitors. We manipulated and created all life genetically on planet Earth. We were responsible for the Earth's earliest civilizations. We genetically manipulated humans. We are the missing link in evolution, as it were. We set up the different religions throughout the globe, and your ancestors worshipped us as gods, and rightfully so. Now at this critical juncture in human history, we are back to usher in this new age, this age of peace and love and brotherhood. One planet, one people, please.
So are they coming from outer space?
Well, personally, I don't think they're coming from outer space. They may be coming from a parallel dimension. We live in, 4 dimensions. We used to say 3 dimensions. I almost repeated that from my grade school days. And now we know, of course, thanks to Einstein, that time is the 4th dimension and is, of course, both manipulative, able to be manipulated and measured and changed based on our relationship to time. But in any case, there scientists now, you've got all these people talking about quantum physics and what they call planes and parallel dimensions and string theory. And some of these are actually measurable, meaning that we're only doing it in terms of theory, but we're actually able to detect that there are dimensions that are around us that we simply can't see right now with our eyes. There is, if we get to this, there is also another part of this. In what we're doing in biotechnology today, part of the transhumanist movement aspires to alter what we are by blending us with animals, which is what the Watchers did. But they also view that as possibly opening new modes of perception. Maybe then we'll be able to see in to these other realms. Like we know even from the Bible, the story of Balaam's donkey. The donkey can see this angel standing in the middle of the road. Balaam can't see this donkey. Nick Bostrom, who is one of the world's leading transhumanists, he's a professor, a bioethicist at Oxford University, has written extensively on this in his Transhumanist Values thesis, which he earned his PhD on, how that by blending ourselves with animals, we're going to open new modes of perception because they can see into areas of the light spectrum that are closed to us.
Research has begun in this area. University of Utah is doing the farming of sheep in particular that have been altered slightly to produce human organs, say a human liver, a human heart, for transplantation. All sounds very good until you look at the implications of it. Now, back to the Vatican for a moment. They have their own astronomer. They have their own observatory. And they've been peering into the heavens. They've been listening to all the reports about UFOs, and they have concluded, their astronomer, Gabriel Funes, has said, we believe that at a certain point in the near future, these alien entities are going to reveal themselves to mankind. We should prepare ourselves for this. because they will come as saviors, if you will, and he specifically said they may be vastly superior to us even morally, because they may not have ever experienced original sin such as we did. Therefore, we should look to them as much above human potential.
Other priests among the Vatican, Corrado Balducci, some years ago, remember, Lynn, how much he was in the news because he said, and he was not repudiated by the Vatican when he said that aliens are already in contact with the earth, they're already communicating with us, and the Vatican, the highest levels of the Vatican are aware of it. When Father Malachi Martin, remember, was asked by Art Bell, why, Gary, is the Vatican so heavily invested in the study of deep space, talking about that VAT observatory.
Yes.
And he answered, because they know what is approaching us and that it could be of the utmost importance within the next 10 years. Well, that 10-year time frame elapsed about 24 months ago, and ironically, not just Corrado Balducci, but Guy Cosmonalgo comes out with his Intelligent Life in the Universe, published by a Vatican publishing house, talking about that very soon we may be in contact with our space brothers. They may be outside the sin question, and therefore...
And what's interesting is last week it was several UFOs over the Vatican that were filmed and recorded and posted. Is that just coincidence? I think what's happening, from my perspective, is that we're being set up for the coming great deception. I mean, when we read in the book of Revelation, when it talks about in 2 Thessalonians, this great one world religious system, it begs the question: how does one get 1.8 billion Muslims, 2.3 billion Christians to somehow change their paradigm, somehow change their worldview? We're looking, in my opinion, of some sort of an incident, something just so off the charts, unprecedented in all of history, is about to happen. And what are we seeing? What are the signs all around us? The burgeoning UFO phenomena. They will come and they will say that we were, I'll reiterate it quickly, but it's basically the alien gospel. I can't say it enough. There are progenitors that created all life on the planet, genetically manipulated human DNA to our present form. We're worshipped as gods. Now they're back at this critical juncture in human history. The Vatican, I believe, is setting the stage for the coming great deception. And it's not that it's almost here. I think it's here, which ties into what you were saying. They know, and they're trying to prepare the masses in some way.
Well, let's broaden this discussion just a little bit and just mention one word, and I'm sure that when I do, all of our viewers are going to just jump up and understand exactly what we're talking about: Roswell. Yeah.